Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're gonna do our final project of data engineering project series. So we're gonna be working with the data, building a data model and then deploying that data model into the database. So we're gonna do everything from start to end. Just to note, if you haven't watched the part 1 and part 2, then do make sure that you watch it, because if you don't watch it then it's quite difficult to understand this particular part. So go and check the link in the description to watch that part and then continue with this video. Also, if you have any doubts and issues while installing the software or any error comes up, then you can join the Discord channel and ask me over there. Me or any other person can help you over there, so do make sure you join the Discord channel. So without wasting time, let's get started. Now in this project we're gonna need a lot of things. So first we're gonna import some of the packages. Now if you remember, we already installed the G2, and in this particular project we're going to use pandas also in order to read the data and upload that data onto a database. Okay, so if you don't have, let's say, pandas, what you can do, you can basically write pip install pandas and just run this particular command. I've already have this, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to run this particular cell. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a function, because we might need to call this particular function again and again in order to do the repetition. So functions are really useful for those kind of work. When you have like we're gonna create like a function for create database, drop tables and create tables. So what we will do, we will basically pass the query to this function and the function will create the final database or final table. Okay, so that way you don't basically repeat your code again and again. So we will come to this function. We're just gonna initialize this right now and we're gonna move ahead. So when we need this function, I will explain you what this particular function does, but for now we're just gonna run this as it is. Okay, now I have taken data for some kind of wealth account across different countries. Okay, so it has data for how much wealth a particular country has. Okay, I found this particular data online. So it doesn't matter what data you use. What matters is your data is spread across multiple files and you can create multiple tables and create relation between them. So I'm just going to show you one particular data, and that way you will be able to understand what this process looks like. This is what our data looks like. This is like really messy data. Okay, and this has like a lot of columns, but we're not gonna use all these columns right now. We're just gonna pick up like 5 to 6 columns from this particular table, and we'll also pick some of the columns from other files to make things really easy. So going back to Jupyter Notebook, to read a CSV file, okay, these are the CSV files. So we already defined pandas on the top, so we're gonna use pandas as PD, which is basically a alias. So we can use PD dot any function inside the pandas. Okay, let's say if you don't know how to read a particular file, so then you can just Google it, that read CSV in pandas, and you will get from the documentation you will get the from the documentation you will get the function that read underscore CSV is the function, and you can just provide the file path and everything. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna just read this particular CSV. Now we have basically stored that particular CSV inside accounts country. Now let's say if I want to print the first 5 rows of that particular data frame, so we can use .head function, which will basically print first 5 rows from that database. And now you can see there are so many data available, and there are like currently we are just printing 5 rows and there are 32 columns available in this particular data. Now we don't need all the columns because we're just testing and building a data model. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna select limited columns from this particular data frame. So I've like created the list of these things. If you don't know list, then you can check the Python tutorial, but basically using this particular accounts country, okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select this particular columns from this data frame. You can see country code, short name, table name, and etc., and just store that particular data frame into accounts country clean. Okay, now if you print that accounts country clean, you will see we have just taken some of the limited columns from the particular database. So we don't need all this data right now, we just need short data that we can just upload into our database. Now again we're gonna repeat the same process. What we're gonna do, we're gonna basically read this wealth account data, and we're just gonna print that. Now from this particular data we don't need this unnamed column. Okay, so what we're gonna do, what we're gonna do, for this unnamed last column, we're just gonna remove that. So let's print the column name, and there are around like this many columns available, and we don't need this particular column because this is just a null value and we don't need that right now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna basically drop this particular column from the data frame. So there is a function inside the pandas which is data frame dot drop, and then you can provide your column name which is unnamed :9, and you can provide the axis. Axis is basically, if you provide axis equal to 1, that means it is a column, and if you provide axis is equal to 0, that means it is a row. You can check out the documentation if you want to understand more. So we're just gonna run this particular code and display the data, and now we don't have that final header column which we were getting. Okay, let me show you that particular thing. Yep, yeah, now it looks good. Okay, so now we don't have that particular unnamed column. Before we had this unnamed column, so now we don't have that. Now we're gonna read our third file, same process. If you see, there are like a lot of columns and we don't need all those columns, so I'm just gonna take limited columns for my work and just create the table. Now we have our kind of data ready for the insertion, but in order to insert the data and create the table structures, we need to create a data model. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, we have like defined our column list and everything. We're gonna create the data model for this particular code. So you can go to draw.io. Draw.io has like a lot of functions available. Let me adjust this. Yeah, so you can use draw.io. There are like a lot of tools available online, so you can use that too, but I'm just gonna stick to draw.io because it's pretty easy to learn. Then you can go to entity relation and pick this particular table. Okay, now we have how many? We have 3 tables. Okay, so one is our let's go back here. One is our accounts country, so I'm just gonna put accounts country as a name. Then we have our accounts data, so I'm just gonna pull one more entity which is accounts data and account series. Okay, so now it is a matter, we don't need to understand what each and every data means right now. We're just gonna create a structure and how it looks, so it is easier to understand visually rather than when you write it in the code. So now we have our 3 tables available here, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna basically create this structure which is our country code, which is a primary key for accounts country. We're gonna come to this particular section right now, but just let me just show you how you can basically create your data model. Then we have your short name, then your I'm just gonna paste the table name, then it is the long name, and we have the currency unit. So I'm just gonna pull this particular section, copy this, paste this, and this is my currency unit. Now you can also write the data type just in case if you want to understand that this is the var. Okay, like this. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. I'm just trying to show you how you can just create a structure. Now same way I'm gonna do it for the country name, then country code. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna basically create a relation for this particular thing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick up the arrow from here. Okay, and let's say we have a country code over here and we want to join this accounts data. Okay, so we can use a country code from this, which is basically we just gonna put this over here, and this is our country code. So we are just gonna join this particular thing. Now you can basically make it look good like this by providing proper structure. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. kind of good, better than the before. Okay, so this is our basic data model which we created, and this is how the structure looks right now. Okay, so this is our first data model, and we're gonna build a table according to that, because once you have this particular data model ready, then it's quite easy to build a table and the query. So we have this particular data model ready. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna call our create database function. So we define the function on the top. Okay, so in the Python, if you want to create a function, it's pretty easy. We just need to write the diff and create the function, which is basically called the function name, and then you can provide the colon and start writing your function inside it. So if you have watched our part 2 of this series, then you will know that we are basically creating connection with our database. So we have like database Postgres already ready with the user and the password. Now what we're gonna do is we basically going to create a new database which is in accounts to store our accounts details. So we have first we're gonna drop database if it exists, because we want to start it from the scratch, and then we're gonna create the database, so which is basically same cursor execute create database and database name, so the accounts, and we're gonna close the connection with our default database, and we're gonna create a new connection with the database we created, which is an accounts. Okay, so we're gonna provide a new database name over here and connect to it, and return two arguments, which is your cursor is used for execution of the query, and your connection. Okay, connection is your connection with the database. These are the two objects that we're gonna return. So what returning means is we called the function over here, which is your create database. Okay, so it will return that particular object, which is your cursor and connection, so that we can use those objects in order to run the query or use the connection. Okay, so I'm just gonna call this particular database, which is your correct create database, and what it will do, it will go to the backend and it will create the database. Now it is currently executing, so we're gonna wait for that. Until then, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to and log into our Postgres console. It's running perfectly. Now in the SQL shell, what I'm going to do, I'm just basically going to connect to the new database we created. It's loading right now. So it's localhost. Our database was account, because we just created the accounts. Then our port is same, username is our Postgres, and your password is root. Okay, so we connected with the accounts. Okay, now let's say we're gonna create a table. So we're gonna basically store this particular query inside this particular variable. So the structure is same, like create table if not exist accounts country. Okay, the same way. Okay, accounts country, our primary key is our country code, so we are going to define this country code as our primary key, and there are all the other column names such as short name, table name, long name, currency unit as a varchar. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this particular code, which basically stored this particular query inside this variable. So use execute function inside our cursor in order to run this particular query, and gonna call commit function in order to make sure the transaction is committed. In the part 2 we set our commit as default as true, but in this particular section we're gonna call the commit again just to show you both the ways you can do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna run this particular query, and it has run successfully. Now let's say if I want to go and see this particular table, I can use this /tt, and you will see we have our accounts country available here. So we already have our table available here. Now we don't have like many rows, but we're gonna insert that. Now the same process we're gonna do it for here. So we're gonna refer our this particular relational data model we created, and based on that we will create our table and do the same process again and run this particular code. And for the third one also, for the account series, we're gonna repeat the same process and run this particular code. Now let's check our PostgresSQL data model, and you will see we have like 3 tables available here. Okay, so already we created the accounts country, now we have accounts data and account series. Now we have our structure ready, we have our table ready. Now what we need to do, we need to insert data inside this particular table. So let's say right now if I do select star from accounts country, then okay, it's the select star from. Okay, I will see I have like 0 rows available over here. Now I'm going to insert some data inside this. So basically, to insert the data is pretty simple. It's just a basic SQL query. Just write the insert into table name and provide all the columns name in which you want to insert the data, and provide some wildcard so that we can use that format to insert the data. So we're just gonna define the structure over here. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna loop through our data frame which we basically created on the top. So this is our data frame. Okay, so we're gonna loop through each and every row and insert that data. Now this is not the most efficient way, but just to show you and just for the simplicity I'm going to do that. But when you're working with the big data, the process will be completely different. Okay, and we will look into our future videos how to do that. But as this is a basic series, I'm just going to show how you can loop through each and every row and insert that data. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to write the for function. Okay, and there is a iter rows function inside the Python. Okay, which basically returns two things. One is your index and one is the value from that particular row. Okay, so this is simple. We're gonna pass our insert query inside the execute, and we're gonna basically provide the list of our data. So if I, let's say if I just comment this out and show you and print the row, you will see we will have our all the data available here. So this is like row by row our data. Okay, and if I do the list of this, then you will see we have like list of data which is basically our data inside our data frame. Okay, now this particular data will be get inserted over here and the query will get executed, as you can see, based on this particular thing. So what I'm going to execute this particular function. So now we have inserted our data inside the database. Okay, now when I go and look at the table and try to run it, it will show me 0 rows still because we haven't committed the transaction yet. Okay, so what when we do, we just gonna commit the transaction. You can commit the transaction at the end or right now. So I'm gonna do commit the transaction, and I will go to this particular, let's say I'm just want to print first 5 rows and run this, and you can see all our data is available inside the database. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? Now we're gonna repeat the same process for this execute this particular query. Now it will insert the data. Now this is like really long file, so it will take, let's say, 1 minute to insert the data, and then we're gonna do the same process for account series. So we're gonna do that, and at the end we're gonna commit this particular transaction just to make sure we have like committed all the transaction. Now let's say if I check the account series, oh wait, what is the table name? Account series. Okay, and run this, and you can see all the data are available now. The reason is in this the structure doesn't look good because this is like terminal, but let's say if I put the limit 5, you will see all the data is available over here. So that way we basically created our first project of data engineering, which is building a data model. And this is really important because okay, you go to your in a job, okay, and you will be working with a lot of data, and you will be querying a lot of data from the SQL or MySQL. You will be querying a lot of data from the database. Okay, so in order to understand how data is built on the first place, it is really important, because whenever any person gets into data science or data engineering, okay, they don't really know how database is built, because most of the time they get data available, so they don't know the back process. So this project is really important in order to understand how data is built. Okay, now once you know how data is built, then you can do whatever you want. Okay, so you know how you build the data from the building data model, getting the data, cleaning it a little bit, and then uploading that data into the database. Now you can use the data, query it whatever the way you want, and try to find insights and build visualization and stuff like that. So in the next project we're gonna continue with our lot of stuff. So maybe we will start with the NoSQL database, or we will start with ETL process for this data, or we will pick some new data in order to make things look new, and we're gonna just start with a fresh. So if you're learning something new from this video, then don't forget to like this particular video. That will help my channel to grow. And if you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to upload a lot of things related to data engineering, data science, and machine learning in future. So see you in the next video. Thank you.